What if you once loved your career and then one day you realize you just don't anymore? You're still good at it, but you're not sure you can keep doing this. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I am your host, Dr. Carolyn Sengel. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves, so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success, one that is aligned, meaningful, and truly yours. Megan Applegate is a business owner, recruiter, and career strategist, helping people navigate the job search in a way that reflects who they are and where they want to go. That clarity comes from experience. She built a 20-year career in hospitality, growing into leadership roles where she was trusted to create meaningful experiences and lead high-impact work. She was confident in what she was doing. She knew how to do it well. And then she reached a moment of awareness. Her work started to feel different, and her energy was shifting. She was still showing up, still delivering, and she was ready for something more aligned. In this episode, we hear her journey, what she noticed, what she chose, and how she stepped into what came next. Megan Applegate, welcome to Your Next Success. I'm super excited to be talking to you today.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So we are going to get to all the amazing things that you do with people in the midst of job search and your phenomenal career and all the ways that you help people. We will totally get to that. And I'd love to take it way, way back to the beginning. Can you help us understand, where were you born? What was what was life like for the very littlest Megan?
Sure. So little Megan grew up in Michigan. So I was born in a pretty small town in southern Michigan called Hillsdale. I have a twin sister.
When you were really little, were there any particular activities that you really enjoyed doing?
I was a sports girl, so really enjoyed my social time, I think, as most young females. But I was super into volleyball, and I played basketball. My sister and I did a lot of horseback riding. I tried everything, like, as a little girl, right? Like, I did gymnastics, I did dance. At one point, I did a year of cheerleading. So I would say, I dabbled in a lot.
And how about school subject wise? Were there any particular things that you enjoyed more than others?
Um, you know, and this is funny that you asked that question, because again, if I think back to, again, comparing the two of us, we were fraternal. We didn't look anything alike. But she was very much the science brain and became a PA, physician assistant, and went through that. And I kind of floated in the middle of, I'm not terrible in anything when it comes to like the main subjects of school, but I never gravitated towards one thing or another. I just kind of like stayed in the middle and never really like found my footing in anything really until I got to college, of like what I was great at, other than socializing. Of course, I could do that all day
But
long.
socializing is socializing though is the missing hidden skill that propels anybody in their career. I came from a science background, and so the amount of brilliant people who can't communicate their way out of a paper bag is
Yes.
a lot. It's a
Yes.
lot. And so even while you weren't necessarily finding a favorite academic subject in the early years of school. You still
Yeah.
were developing these ability to relate to people, communicate, get things
Oh,
done with
yeah.
and through others. Like these are phenomenal,
You're right.
phenomenal skills.
No, you
And
don't think about that all the time, you know?
this is why I ask people these things because it's like,
Yeah.
oh, there's elements of who you are that have been
Yeah.
there all along, just looking
Right.
for their, beauty and their place to shine. So,
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right.
what did your parents do?
Well, so my mom was a bookkeeper. So she did bookkeeping for a company. And my dad actually was an entrepreneur himself, which is interesting, right? So I saw a little bit of that. They both worked for my mom's dad way back in the day when we were in tiny little Hillsdale, Michigan. And then my grandfather got sick and passed at a pretty early age. And so that's when we moved up to the East Lansing area, because my dad's uncle had started and was really growing well with an installation business.
Oh,
So like
cool.
building insulation. And then pretty quickly after that, I remember my dad being like, you know what? Like, I just don't want to work for anyone anymore, including family. And he started his own accounting business. I just remember my dad always having 3 to 4 different businesses going at one time. I don't remember thinking, well, I want to do that too, but it is a core memory of mine
Yeah.
watching him kind of, you know, stumble a little bit. I mean, nothing ever like officially really took off, if I'm being honest with you, but like to constantly be getting back up and be like, okay, let me try this next and let me try this next. And he still to this day has his accounting business. So yeah, yeah,
Oh,
that's
wow.
what they did.
And when you were kind of in that, let's say, early years or up to high school, what did you think it meant to be successful? Like what did you think that was for somebody to be a successful adult?
I would classify that as easy living. But I think that, you know, being successful meant that we never had to like worry. Um,
Mm.
where we could do some traveling and we could go out to dinner when we wanted to. And I was very much in the middle class type of life in, blue collar Michigan area where in my eyes, we never struggled, right? Like, but I think you always want to kind of protect your children from really knowing what's going on. So who knows? Maybe we were, and I had no idea, but we got to take good trips. And, a lot of it was by car, but we got to go to Hawaii once and California once. So for me, I think, would he tell me I was successful back then? Knowing what I know now, um, I'm not sure I would say the answer would be yes, even though I've never really had that honest conversation with him.
Okay, so how did you decide that you were even gonna go to college, and how did you pick where you went?
Good question. So college was just always something like that's just what you're going to do. That was never not a thing, right? And so, I didn't have the best grades. I didn't have really bad grades. I was really in the middle. So I found a college because I still didn't know what I wanted to do. I really was like, I'll go. Sure, I'm excited to go to college, but like I can't put my finger on what that's going to look like yet. And I think a lot of people in that age, there's a lot of emphasis on and us as parents thinking, well, hopefully, so we're not wasting our money. But like, there's a lot of people that don't, including myself. So I picked a school that was a good sized university. It was an hour and a half away. So Central Michigan University. So I was finding a way to like detach myself from my hometown and from my twin sister a little bit, right? Where she went to Michigan State, which is an amazing school. I love that school, but that was just like her path. And part of me understands now that I needed to find my own path, right? And so
Yeah.
deciding to go to that school was still a good school, just easier to get into, a little bit further away so I could develop my own, who was Megan going to be? And so I got there and I did have one friend that went with me, but beyond that, I think that's when I first started to be like, okay, so I'm not one of the Applegate twins, or I'm not Nicole's sister, right? That I started to develop this whole brand new group of friends, and really started to hone in and figure out where my path would lead next. And it took me to my junior year to figure out what I wanted to do.
And then how did that come about? What did you fall into?
So when I was a junior, one of my roommates that I had met at college, she started working and in the recreation department, which basically is like the hospitality industry, like that degree. And I'm not sure why I never even like considered that that was a true job or industry or degree that you could get. But she kind of like started talking about these classes she was taking to get a hospitality degree in the commercial recreation department. And there was just like a light bulb that went off in my head to be like, wait, like you can get a degree and then go work where everyone is vacationing and having fun? S- Sign me up. Like that was like literally sold. And I think my parents were like, thank God she figured something out to do, right? And I like remember latching on to the idea that I could work in the hospitality industry. Even though I think at the time I still was unclear of truly the the size of what that industry is, but like just the idea around I can go and be in warm places and with palm trees around me and work with people where people are having fun and plan events. And that was just it. That was what I was going to do. And that's what I did.
That's awesome. And so then how did you or when did you get your kind of first job in that arena?
So part of our schooling for this degree was I had to go and do a two-part 9-month internship. So I earned like a stipend just so I could like survive, right? But like they didn't actually have to pay us. So I found myself an internship working at what was then called the Amelia Island Plantation, which is now, I believe, an Omni. But Amelia Island is right outside or on the coast of Jacksonville, Florida. So very, very spread out, super cool, resort. I did the recreation department and I got to do it with people from around the world. So they had people from Wales and England and, like Mississippi and all these people that I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I only know Michigan, right? Like other
Yeah.
than for vacations, it's like you don't realize what you don't know, right?
Yeah.
When you only come from one area of the United States. And so my eyes just got like this, right? I was like, oh my God, this is so much fun. This is it. Like, this is what I want to do. So I finished that internship. And the two parts of it, I went back to Central Michigan University, graduated, and before I had left, I had secured myself a job in West Palm Beach working for the Breakers Resorts. And I was
Oh, that's so
like,
cool.
mhm. So I was like, sorry, mom, dad, but like, I've got the bug. I'm going to Florida. This is so me. Like, I want, all the sunshine and the palm trees. And again, living in the tundra, like, that was like a whole new world for me. So I packed up my life and took myself down there and, started off super young working for $10 an hour, but in this beautiful resort. Breakers is one of the, top places in the United States, and even worldwide known. So I got some great exposure to just getting my feet wet, running a kids camp, and like
Oh,
babysitting and
that's
having
cool.
fun. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, not anything I would ever want to be doing now, but like at the time, that was perfect. I was getting to experience so many different things in a brand new world, in an industry that I was just like so in love with, right? Like I'm just loving it. And I didn't care if I had to work at night or on the weekends. I just was soaking up every single part of, that lifestyle. I don't say that because I had a terrible childhood. I just, you know, that's it's two different worlds from middle class blue collar area Michigan to going to Palm Beach, Florida, right? And I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
22. So why would you not do that, right?
Even growing up, you kept trying new things and experiencing them, right?
I
And
did.
and meeting people and just like, yeah, I'll try that. And so, yeah, why wouldn't you?
Why wouldn't I?
Get to do
Yeah. Yeah.
now in in that phase, that young phase when here you are working where other people are vacationing, did it feel like work or did it feel like fun?
But with honestly, I think at first I was just so like enamored by like the beauty of that island in that area, coming from, where I was. And so at first I was just like, I've just literally landed in heaven, right? I was just enthralled with the new and very proud of myself for moving at the time that was very attached to one person for my whole life to just be like, This is just not where I foresee myself." And I found my life. And I think it was easy to do, especially in the hospitality industry. And again, besides what I do now, that's really my whole life revolved around that. And I did it for 20 years. But when I first started, especially in hotels and big resorts and big properties like that, it's very family. You get very
Yeah.
indoctrinated into, the people you work with because even though it can be stressful and hard and you're working, all kinds of crazy hours, you're having fun and it becomes very family oriented where you just like it's easy just to grab on to all the friends right where you're at. And so I never felt like I was on my own or I was lost because I just was like, this is my family. This is what I've been waiting for.
So then how did that progress from that early years to then you said you were 20 years in the hospitality industry. So how did it progress from the start to that 20-year
Yeah.
span? Yeah.
Yeah. So I didn't have a straight line. I worked for the breakers for quite a while, absolutely loving life. I then kind of pivoted, not because I didn't love what I was doing, but I realized I couldn't like sustain, a merely $10 an hour and actually trying to do something within a recreation department, like a city recreation department in Fort Lauderdale. It wasn't for me. So I kind of pivoted that way. And then I took a small change because I had met a future husband. Let's just call him my future, ex-husband. And so if he wanted to go get a master's degree in sports management, so we ended up going, actually, interesting enough, back to Michigan to Western to get his degree, and then we came back. So I had a little bit of a sidestep of like, I love this, but then love blinded me, so I decided to do
Yeah.
this. Right. I mean, I think, and that happens. And then we landed back in Florida like 2 years later. So it wasn't a very long stint after he got his degree. We landed in St. Augustine, Florida. So when I got back, I was lucky enough to land a job at the Casa Monica Hotel in St. Augustine, which is, if you don't know that one, it's like part of the Kessler Collection, which is the Grand Bohemians, and probably
Wow.
one of
Yeah.
my favorite companies to work for because every single hotel they have is artsy and different and got a different theme. So I got back into that, worked my way up into the sales and events and catering department, which is basically what I did the rest of my career. I got lucky enough to prove myself. And so I started working all of the social events for the Casa Monica Hotel. And we had three different venues or two ballrooms and like an outside pavilion pool. So I became the wedding planner queen.
Oh, that's so cool.
At that time in my life, I would have been in my late 20s, and we would do 5 weddings a weekend. I mean, it was just like
Wow.
it wasn't a huge resort. It was a downtown property, but it was so unique and we had the space. And so it just became just like really well known for that. My most amount was 120 in 1 year or something like that. And so people are always like, "How the hell did you do that?" And I was
Yeah.
like, I must be really good at logistics along with selling and the people part because they trusted me, right? And so
Yeah.
it was something I trained myself to do, and I absolutely adored that. I loved it. But again, life happens. Loved St. Augustine. But first marriage ended. We'll just say that it didn't last very long. And so the next step took me down to the Miami area. And so I got into a property, I think it's a JW now, in Aventura, Florida, which is like north area of Miami. So I did that for a long time. Then I progressed into becoming a director of catering for Shula's Hotel, which is also that area. Then ended up having our son. So Cruz, he's 15 now, but we had him in Miami. So we ended up here in Charlotte, which is where I am now. And we moved here in 2014. So we've been here 12 years. And this was kind of the last stop for both of us on the hospitality train. And I got myself into a great Hilton property up here in downtown Charlotte. And I was there for about 5 years, was living life, growing our family. And that was 2018, when I finally hit my wall of like, I absolutely adore this industry, but I can't I can't plan one more wedding. Don't want to work the weekend. I don't want to be here. And I had an epiphany one night working where I was just like, I was there and everyone had left and it was a Friday and I was just like, where is the magic? It's gone. Like I don't have the emotional bandwidth. I started to not care any longer. And I think after, a couple of days of, working the weekends and a couple weeks where I was just like, it felt like it hit me out of nowhere. Like I was just like so in love with everything. I had all these great friends here in Charlotte and I was getting intertwined with the community of hospitality. And I was at like my peak of like, I am amazing at what I do and so confident in my abilities and what I was doing. But somehow I just was like, I don't I don't wanna I don't know, I don't wanna quit hospitality because it's all I know and I love the industry so much, but I don't want to do this anymore. And I really hit a wall of like, wow, okay. Well, what is that like, what do you like, all right, Megan, wherever, like little Megan, big Megan, like, what are you going to do with your life then? Like, what does this look like? I mean, it's all that you know. So that was my turning point of like, okay, what do I do? I
Yeah.
wasn't being challenged anymore because, again, like when you're doing a lot of event planning, and especially with me on the social side, I was super involved with, weddings and people's like big memory things. And I remember having just like, watching these weddings happen and having tears and just like all the emotions. And then I realized like that stopped happening. And I just was like, that's not fair to them for me to not care and not want to be here and just be like, I'm going through the motions of this. And I was like, I was proud of the fact that I realized that. Because I think a lot of times,
Absolutely.
people will be like, well, that's normal. Just keep moving on, right? And I was like, no, I shouldn't do this. I shouldn't do this because people need the old Megan that had all the feelings and the cares and wanted to make memories, and really cared about what she was doing. So I I really took that to heart and was just like, okay, like you know, this is I cannot do this for myself, but I can't do it for the people that I am, planning all these events for either anymore. And so interestingly enough, as soon as I kind of like said that to myself, I think within a week I actually had somebody reach out to me that was a recruiter and said, "Hey,
Mm.
I found your profile on LinkedIn. We're recruiting for it was a national director of catering and conference services for a Compass Group, which is a very large company. Like it's part of hospitality, but it's extremely different than a hotel and the way that world runs, especially within food and beverage and events. And then to take that into a contract food service where I was planning and organizing and over a very large team that was over the Bank of America contracts. So extremely
Oh,
rigid,
wow.
right? So somehow I got this job. And because again, it was like, I've never done contract food service, and it was a huge step up, huge promotion, huge bump in pay. I was going to be traveling to New York and Chicago and Boston, and I was like, oh, this is what I need. This is what I need. All right, like we're all in. Like I'm on board. I'm so excited about this. Somehow I like managed to get myself this job, which I was just like, I don't know how I did that, but I'm in, and I was so excited. And that lasted 7 months, and I hated it.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook.
Feeling bored and being like, I don't think I can do this again, then you're kind of like looking for an escape, and here comes some fun looking opportunity. Anything different sounds great. Now
Yeah.
you get in there and it sounds good from the outside, but then what was it from the inside that wasn't actually aligning with what you wanted?
I didn't know a lot about contract food service. I just knew how catering and conference services and detailing, and I could lead a team. So like I knew that piece of it. I just it was a completely different level of, I wouldn't say expectation, but just like layers. Layers of like, you had the bank who hired another company to manage this company, then to manage this company. And it was, so many rules, so rigid. I just felt like I was like under fire at all times. Um, I didn't feel good. I didn't feel good in it. I felt like people were not giving me a fair chance. Like the people that hired me were in my corner because they were like, we made this decision, but then they were trying to prove their reasoning for hiring me to like who then managed them. And those people didn't necessarily agree. And it was this kind of like conflict of, I never felt like I got a chance and off on the right start, because even though the group that hired me was confident, the people above them were not. And so there was this battle of like, I really want to do good. I wanted to prove myself, and I was, um, but I felt like I was under a microscope almost every day. And I think when you come from a world of truly feeling like you've got your world under control, you know what you're doing, and no one's questioning you because you've proven yourself, and then you go do something else, and it feels like there's always pressure and always people like, I don't really know, is that good enough? I was like, oh no. Like this doesn't feel good at all. Like I was like, this is I was grateful that I took the opportunity. I don't think I ever regretted it. I just was like,
Yeah,
this is not it. And that's okay. Like, how else would I have known that? Right?
absolutely. But the earlier roles, you had a more direct line into how what you were doing was actually impacting and helping somebody have a wonderful experience. But now
Right.
with all of these layers, you're just
Mhm.
working within the layers and not necessarily getting to experience the firsthand joy and gratefulness of somebody who got to experience the event you planned with them, you know? So
Yeah.
maybe
Yeah.
that thing too, because
No, it's true. Like I would say that for sure. That could have definitely had a hand in it because you're right. I didn't really ever get to see the finished product anymore because I was at a level then that I was just making sure that the people that were supposed to be doing their job were doing their job, right? And like kind of like at the high
yeah,
level touch with some of these clients. But again, our client was like the bank, but then and all of their employees, but then we had another client underneath them that were trying to prove their worth that they could manage
yep.
us to the bank. And so I was just like, no, this does not fit,
It
Megan.
was it was back in the behind the scenes thing, which you had already thought like, "Ooh, I don't wanna be behind the scenes. I wanna be
Yeah.
out in the front." And so but without knowing, how are you supposed to know? Because it sounds like, "Oh, yeah, all these layers, all these people, I'm down for it." And then you realize,
Oh
"Wait a
yeah.
minute,
Yeah.
I'm a little
And I
more
think
direct." Yeah.
maybe um maybe if that hadn't happened, like and I wasn't like already doubted from the beginning that like that feeling would have settled better and I would have just kind of kept going. But very quickly I was just like, doesn't work for anybody. This just doesn't like working. And it was honestly an agreeable departure of like, okay, we're sorry. Because again, they tried on their end, Compass Group
Yeah.
to, like help the other people. But again, I don't disregard the situation because I learned a lot from it. But
And then yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
And and in the same moment, you got to experience additional layers within this great wild wide world of hospitality and multiple new job functions that you hadn't worked with before. Now, instead of just seeing them on the thing, you now intimately know a little bit more about what each one of those
Right.
other roles do beyond what you had experienced from all the resorts and the hotels prior.
Yeah.
So it still opens up your awareness
Oh, for sure. For
that,
sure. And
yeah,
again, gives me the ability to say, I did contract food service, even though it was only 7 months. Like, it was enough to give me a taste of what that's like. And truthfully, Compass Group tried to like keep me. They tried to be like, well, this doesn't work on this contract, but we love you, so let me put you over here. But at the time I was just like, does not feel good anymore. I really appreciated that, but like it in general, I didn't I just wasn't me. It didn't feel good.
mhm,
And I think you have to kind of trust that sometimes to be like, you know, when you first start a new job, it doesn't ever feel good because it's like, I hate not knowing and being the person that knows all the things. That's like why a lot of people don't change jobs is because they don't like the uncomfortable piece of being the person that doesn't know all the things, right?
right.
It wasn't that. It truly was like I was just a big stress ball every single day and just feeling like I could never get it right. And then I was, having to travel and there was too many things that I was just like, even if I gave it more time, you just know when something doesn't feel right for you, I think.
And I'm so proud of you for, like, listening to that because, again, there's so many other people that are like, "I'm gonna push through. I'm gonna
Oh yeah.
override this. No, it's fine," and it's not actually fine. And so
Yeah. Yeah.
you gave yourself the space to be like, "Nah, I don't think so." And so then what happened, though?
Well, so at that point, honestly, I just didn't have a job. And I was kind of like, okay, so like I literally, luckily, because of the situation that had occurred, they gave me a decent severance. So I had some time to figure it out where I wasn't just like, oh my God, I'm going to just take whatever comes back to me that I'm good at. Cause, I'm not sure if I don't think I would have done that. But again, I totally understand people in the desperation that you feel when you lose a job. It's a terrible sinking feeling. Not only from a material financial piece, but just like from emotional point of view of feeling like you did something wrong or you're not good enough. I mean, it's just is really hard to be in that space. But I've learned, especially with what I do now, which is interesting, and how this has played out, but that like it, it things happen for a reason. They always do, right? Like it's you just don't see it in and I tell my clients that I work with now all the time, like if you don't have a job or you got laid off, like there is a reason for what's going to happen. And even though it could be taking you way much longer than you had hoped for, like you will truly understand eventually, right? And like I feel
Yeah.
like that's where I'm at now, where I've never, at that time, and this was 2018, um, forward 8 years, I would have never put myself in the position that I'm in now. So, you just have to like keep your eyes open and just keep going forward. So after that, I was just like, okay, so what am I gonna do? And my husband had said, you know what, I had a recruiter reach out to me once before with this company called Gecko Hospitality. Maybe she can help you. Let me pass your resume along to her and then just see what happens with that. And I was like, okay, well, at this point, I don't know what I'm doing, so sure. So Joan calls. This is the restaurant side of Gecko Hospitality. She calls me, the owner, and she's like, "Well, I don't have anything like specifically that, fits what your background is. However, I'm actually considering selling a portion of my business in North Carolina with Gecko Hospitality, and your profile and your resume and your experience fits up really well with somebody that could take that on." And with that, what that meant was, so Gecko Hospitality is a franchise model, right? And we are nationwide. So what Joan was doing was she was saying, I own both the restaurant and the hospitality side for North Carolina with Gecko, and I want to sell the hospitality side of my business, and you would be a perfect fit. And I was like, come again? What are you talking about? What do you do? What do you do? And she's like, well, I'm a recruiter. And I was like, I only have one experience with a recruiter, and that was that actually somebody that just recruited me for my last job that didn't work out. And she's like, let's like have a conversation. I'm here in Charlotte, this weekend. Let's just sit down and talk about it. And I just was like, okay, like let me think about this. And so, long story short, I think that in the back of my mind, I'd always had an inkling that I would love to own a business. I thought I would have my own event planning business when I was in the thick of loving what I was doing.
Yeah.
Especially when we first moved to Charlotte, like I can do this. I would be amazing. All the fun stuff and the pretty stuff, and the creative stuff. I love it all. And so, but that opportunity just never came. And so when this kind of came and dropped into my lap, I just kind of thought, well, recruiting. What, like, how does that even work? like
Yeah.
what does that person do? Like, how do you make money? And so we had a couple of different conversations with Joan, and Chris and I together made the decision to go ahead and move forward and buy this portion of her business from her. And I will tell you, we were not ready for it. A lot of people ask me, like, how did you move from having a steady paycheck and then all of a sudden owning a business, and that wasn't like we're going to start a business. This was we are going to buy something from somebody that's already established. So there's a little bit of
Yeah.
that, right? So like, it's a little bit of like, okay, so I feel a little bit more comfortable because it's established. I'm not starting this from scratch. There's some clients existing. However, we owed a decent amount of money immediately to be able to buy
Yeah.
this. And we were not in a position to do that. Um, good or bad. Maybe people will be like, well, that was stupid. Why'd you do that? But, hey, I was in a position and I was like, I don't know how we made it work, but you always can make it work somehow. And we did. And so we decided to, rip off the Band-Aid and go ahead and just do it. I was going to build our business. Chris, my husband, again, I mentioned him a few times. He was still going to keep his job. And this was in 2019. And he was going to stay as our steady income. And eventually, when I got it to a place where we were super comfortable, then he would join me. And so that was what we did. I went to Florida and I trained with Gecko there in their headquarters. I came back and I started, just doing they trained me how to be a recruiter. What I didn't know is how to run a business. I think
Yeah.
that's the hard part. But I just started to do it, and I was working from home all of a sudden and by myself all of a sudden, and I just was like, you have this change of mindset. Like, you're just determined. I don't know if you feel the same way, Caroline, but like with your business, but like it's just a brand new set of eyes to be like, I will be successful, right?
Yeah.
And so I started in 2019, and then COVID hit the next year.
Right? Like,
Yeah,
oh my gosh. Yeah. Hospitality recruiter. And there's a lot of candidates. Good news. A lot of candidates available. Bad news, not so many jobs.
no
So,
business at
h-
all. So there's that happened. Which, I mean, again, like, I'm not shocking anyone when I say that. Like, everyone went through it. But I just literally bought and started a business. And, on the other hand, Chris lost his job. So here we are, in
oh
early
gosh.
March of 2020, and he loses his job, and we're just like sitting at home with our son, who at the time, I think he was finishing third grade, because then I remember we had to homeschool him in fourth grade. But anyways, so we're just all looking at each other like, okay, like, what do we do? What do we do? And again, I can't even tell you what we did because there was no business, but somehow we made it, and here we are still making it. And 2020 was super hard. First half of 21 was really hard, and I was just trying to teach him all that I knew from only a year in. And then 22, like, exploded because, again, like, things were like, oh, okay, now we're desperate for people. So we all of a sudden had a windfall of business that's almost like I didn't have enough experience to really truly know what I was doing in the first place, but here we are. Like,
Yeah.
having to, be super excited about actually being able to make money and all these things. And we did. I mean, we did what we had to do, and we were, we learned trial by fire and did what we had to do, and we're pretty successful that year. Um, but then again, 23 in hospitality just right back down. But here we are 7 years later, and we still own Gecko Hospitality. And we actually bought a second territory. So we have North Carolina and we have Missouri. And so through that, good and bad, we're still doing our thing and still trying to, be successful in our own world. And I think we have. But from that, and like, you have experience with recruiting is a hard job. It is not an easy job. And part of, I would say, the hardest thing is the fact that, again, I love people, so it totally makes sense for me to deal with people. But then people are people, and
Yeah. Your
they are going
product.
to make they're going to make
Yeah.
the decisions that they want to make that don't always benefit me as a
Correct.
recruiter.
Your product can say no. That's the
Yes.
thing. And
Yeah.
at the beginning, I tried to like outsmart it. And I was like, well, I'm just going to get better people up front. And then I would get kind of very invested in the people and like the possibilities of what it could be for their life. And then I learned, oh my gosh, I should back up. Like, you can't just like be counting on put all your eggs in one basket type of thing. You have to actually get a few backup people because otherwise somebody says no and now you're starting completely from scratch again.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it was
Yeah.
so hard. And then yeah, it's like it's complex. And what we see from our side of what could be a great move for somebody might not actually align with what they wanted to do or what they needed to do for their family or
Mhm.
their longer
Yeah.
term goals or selling a
Yeah.
house or moving. Like it just there's so
Right.
much
Yeah.
that goes into it. Yeah.
There's a lot. There's a lot. I mean, I still love what I do. I feel very fortunate because this was the other piece of the puzzle that, like, I didn't know recruiting, but I knew hospitality, right?
Yeah.
And so the fact that we got into an established agency that was specific to that niche in that industry felt, you know, okay, like I'm not doing IT recruiting, right? Like, and again,
Yeah.
now that I know recruiting, I know I could. However,
Yeah.
at the time I was like, I at least felt comfortable in that piece of it from what I was doing. But again, I think because there's not a lot of control at times and recruiting can be difficult. That was a little bit of, I think, why my other business was born, with Career Blueprint Solutions, because somebody asked me, this was a couple years now, like I think almost 3 years ago, because they knew me, and they knew what I did. They asked me if I could help write their resume. And I was like, I thought about it and I was like, yeah, I can. Like, I know now
Yeah.
what it what is necessary, because I was like, I know exactly what the client is looking for because I look at resumes all day long. I know when something looks good. I know when it's crap, right? And so, but I also know what the candidate side looks like. And I was like, yeah, I can do that. And so that in itself kind of helped birth this new thought process around, I love recruiting. I don't want to quit recruiting, but there's a little bit of me that's like, I see there's so much wrong with what people think job searching
Yes.
looks like these days, right? And there's an actual strategy around looking for a job and networking and building
Yes.
a professional brand and making sure you have a signal on LinkedIn. And I was like, oh my God, nobody knows this, and I do. Like, I have to help people. I have to help people. And I'll admit there's a little bit of me that was like, I also liked that I had some control of that, because
Mhm.
again, recruiting is not always having a lot of that control. So that was born because I really was just like, I I just, and again, there's a part of me that loves to help and to coach people and to show them what they can do to benefit them, and like a little bit of that emotional piece. So it made sense to kind of like start that other side of it, from our like more of a career coach type of piece and resume writing, because I do the recruiting side. So like it all kind of meshes together where I get to help people, and then I can help those people because a lot of them were coming from the hospitality industry. So then I can turn around and be like, okay, I've I've built you this, like
Yeah.
I've built your confidence, and now I'm gonna like give you to, if it's not me, a partner within Gecko to be like, this is a great candidate, and I can help them and help Gecko, make placements and find people that way. So it's been interesting to see the two kind of marry together and blend to help both companies.
And help people more holistically, right? Because there were a lot of people that, yeah, when I was doing recruiting and I was in the chemical industry field, and people would come and they'd want me to look at their resume, and it's like, okay, you want to be nice and you want to try, but on the other hand, like, whoa, working on your resume isn't helping anything that could eventually benefit both of us in terms of an income. But you
Correct.
found a way to make it so that you could help somebody, you can provide a value, you can get a little bit of compensation for that effort, and yet also
Absolutely.
now helping position them either for you or a referral partner to help
Right.
them eventually land their job. Like, what a win-win. That's
Yeah.
so smart. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But again, I didn't think of that. Somebody just randomly was like, can you? And then my brain went, wait, I can, because I have all the tools and I have all the knowledge. And then I just put the puzzle together, and then kind of like born of like,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. All right. I mean, that didn't happen overnight either, but still, like, that's why I always tell people, like, because I have a lot of people that come to me and they're like, I'm thinking about transitioning out of, this one job to something else. And I'm like, yeah, it's possible. It truly is possible. You never know where your life can take you. And I feel very, I don't know, honor is really not the word, or, I wouldn't say lucky either, because luck is not really part of it. Like, I made my own luck. But again, like, the fact that somebody reached out to me and Joan reached out to us and was like, would you ever think about this? Like, I didn't go seeking that. So like, sometimes you just have to like allow those things to come in, and don't disregard them right away, because you never know where they're lead you to. Right. And
Yes.
now we get to work from anywhere, and we get to go to all of our kids' sports, and we work from home. Amazingly, we do well working together, which people are always like, how do you work with your husband? And I'm like, I don't really know. I mean, we literally sit next to each other in our
Oh, that's
office.
awesome.
Yeah. And don't get me wrong, there's a lot of like, no, I'm right. No, I'm right. No, I'm right. But in general, we love the fact that we, support each other and get to go to networking events together, and, just have like, we're building this together, which I think is really special.
Oh, that's beautiful. So do you only like, let's say somebody did need help with their those kinds of things. Is it typically hospitality focused folks, or do you ever branch out into complete, like, what if it was somebody from IT, or what if it was
Yeah.
somebody from
Yeah. That's a good question.
chemical
Yep.
stuff? Yeah.
So I do it all. I will tell you, I started when I first kind of like thought of the idea of this business. I was very like, I only want to do hospitality because I felt comfortable in that lane. So I started as hospitality hired resumes. So I started that way, and then like about a year and a half in, I was just like, I had kind of built my process and my system, and like what I knew the formula that, right, like that makes a great resume and makes people stand out, and kind of like the whole package of like, if you were to come to me, and we're going to put, you through this process and this blueprint, right? Like, I was like, this is not just for hospitality. I want to open myself up to anything, because I really can. That's when I changed it to Career Blueprint Solutions, and I can do anybody. I will tell you, just based on my LinkedIn presence, because I recruit for hospitality and I have, quite a big following. A lot of what I do is hospitality. However, um, I've worked in construction, and oh my gosh, I mean, really anything that, project management, all kinds of things. Like, the the basis is there, because it doesn't
Yeah,
change, from one
that's right.
industry to the other, of like what you need to do step by step. Here is this process in order to not only be a job seeker, but like position yourself where opportunities find you, which ultimately
Absolutely.
is everybody's goal, right? To never be a job seeker, because it's no fun.
Yeah, that's what we'd like to have people understand. Yeah,
Yeah.
because just, trying to like just blanketly apply to all of the things, there's no fun in that. But yes, you're right. Positioning yourself so that you can be found, so that somebody can come and ask you about an opportunity, and you get to say yes or no if you want to put yourself into that process. But it's
Yeah.
that showing what you've done, not just what you were supposed to do, being available, and yeah, listening for those opportunities, because you're right. You never know what's going
Yeah.
to come across your radar that could completely change your trajectory for the better and have made sense of all those other things you've been through. So I
Right.
agree
Yeah.
100%.
And that piece of it, like, is usually the most rewarding, because it's like, people are like, are you sure that's me? I don't know that that's me. Like, I have imposter syndrome. Like, I don't like, are you sure? And I'm like, what, again, and you probably understand this from the psychology side, right? Like, that what you do is that, like, we struggle a lot, most of us humans, that like, to understand what our true, you know, brilliance is, what our expertise
Yes.
is, are so good at because we do it every day. And so therefore we have this blanket perception of, well, if we just know it so well, then it's not special and everyone else knows it too, right? Where I feel like that's part of the reason I get so much joy out of it is really showing people and uncovering what they are truly amazing at and like
Yes.
helping them present that in a way that like truly represents them that they can't tend to do on their own, which is hard.
Yeah, it's hard because we know what it's like to be us, but not what it's like to not be us, or what it's like to work with us, or how we could position us for something better. Now, how do people find you if they were interested in either of the
Yeah.
areas that you serve?
Yeah. So if you're either in a position looking for recruiting assistance, Gecko Hospitality is definitely nationwide. We help all kinds of different hospitality companies find top talent. So geckohospitality.com is the main website. And then from there, our corporate team gets you in touch with a partner, wherever industry you're at. If you're a candidate looking for a job, you can also reach out to geckohospitality.com. If you're in the hospitality industry, look at all the jobs, and then again, apply through the website and go right to that partner that's working on those roles. On the other side, if you're looking for help individually with career advancement, development, LinkedIn, resume, just one-on-one coaching, interviewing, you can find me at Megan at blueprintsolutions.com, or my website is careerblueprintsolutions.com, and I have all my information there.
Awesome. And then now, from this vantage, what would you say is authentic success for you in this chapter?
Authentic success for me is helping other people understand who they are, show them their best self, teach them how to manage the system. And I think that comes from like truly understanding, like who you are, who is your soul, what does that make, what makes you happy? Because I think that there's so much of us, like, whether it's recruiting or whether it's job searching or career development, we do a job because we've just gotten to a certain point in life, and it's money and it's this and it's that. And I really find that my true passion and calling these days is to kind of help people understand, like, if you're in a great position and you want to grow, that's amazing. But if you're miserable, don't think that there's not a way out of that, right? Because it could be something that's still in the industry, or maybe not at all, right?
Yes.
To be able to be like, okay, so like how, and that you're fixed in that because you're never going to get a job, right, that holds the same kind of value if you do now, that's just not true. So I think helping people with that and watching them kind of flourish in that way is success for me these days.
That's beautiful. Megan, thank you so, so very much for helping us understand more about your journey, your story, all the pivots. We can see this clearly now. Like, things that are happening to people are actually happening for people. And I think you and I are both examples of turning those things and into a beauty that can continue to impact lives and make the world better. So thank you for your story, for the work that you do. And I'm just so grateful that we had this conversation.
Yes, thank you so much for the opportunity. I had so much fun participating and sharing my story.
Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sengel. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.